بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We continue with the book that deals with Tahara, and I think we last stopped at using the toilet and its manners. Now, why would we care about the manners of using the toilet? And this is something that everybody knows how to do. The answer is Islam bases a lot of emphasis on the issue of purity, which also includes under it self-hygiene. So whenever you answer the call of nature, whether it is urinating, defecating, or passing wind, there are etiquettes for that. And if you do not follow these etiquettes, most likely your prayer would be invalid. And this would have dire consequences on your life in the hereafter. The Prophet ﷺ once passed by two graves, and he said they are being tormented in their graves over something that is not big, meaning to refrain from. Then the Prophet said, by Allah, it is big, meaning that the burden and the gravity of the sin. And he said one of them did not protect himself from urine. And the scholars said that this means that when he urinated, he did not take any precautions from the urine deflecting back on his body and clothes. Others say that when he urinated, he did not clean himself. So the purity from or after answering the call of nature is an issue of great importance in Islam. Here the book says that we can purify ourselves after urinating or defecating through two means and ways. Either by washing, and this is the purest of all, or by wiping. Okay, what about passing of wind, Sheikh? You did not mention how to purify from that. There is no purification from passing the wind. And actually, if someone washes himself after just passing wind, this is an innovation done by the Shia or some cults or sects of the Shia. So the washing process is called istinja, and the wiping process is called istijmar. So what is istinja? Istinja is washing the private parts with water. And what do we wash actually? See, when the impurity comes out of your body, it comes out from a specific place. So once you're over and finished, you simply wash that opening or that place in your body with water, so that there would be no impurity at the surface or outside of that organ of yours. Wiping is the same thing. Now, wiping can be done by stones or small rocks, because this is what they had at the time. And this was more convenient because it's everywhere. But you can also use a piece of cloth. You can use toilet tissues. You can use anything that is solid and has a rough surface, because if it has a soft surface, it cannot purify, it cannot cleanse. So it has to have such a rough surface where the impurity would stick into it and it would cleanse your body. And the best of both, and the best is to use both. So if someone defecates, uses tissue paper, and then washes the area with water, that would be a win-win situation. The hadith of Salman al-Farisi we mentioned last time is also mentioned in the book. The Prophet ﷺ, Salman says, prohibited that one should face or turn one's back to the Qibla at the time of answering the call of nature, when one goes to the toilet for urination or defecation, or to use one's right hand for cleansing oneself after that, or cleansing with less than 3 stones, or with animal bones or animal feces. So from this hadith we generally understand the etiquettes of answering the call of nature. The wipes should not be less than 3 times. So if in the third wipe it purifies the place, this is sufficient. Otherwise, add 2 more, so that it would be in odd numbers, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. And you can use any material you wish, providing it's not bones of animals and it's not feces of animals, like dry dung, for example. People think that this can purify, and it cannot. This is not to be used. And again, people would raise their eyebrows, saying, what kind of things we're talking about? Akhi and ukhti, nowadays we are not in the comfort of our homes. We live in concrete blocks. We have air conditioning, we have lights, we have electricity. The time this was said, they had none of this. And the time in the future will go back to the way it started, and we won't have any of such luxurious things, and we would have to go back to the basics. And this is why this comes important to us. Now, part of the etiquettes of answering the call of nature is facing the Qibla when relieving oneself. What's the ruling on that? Well, the ruling on that is very easy and simple. There is a hadith which was narrated by Abu Ayyub, and he says that the Prophet ﷺ said, when you go to the toilet, do not face the Qibla and do not turn your back to it, but face the east or west. Face the east or west. This is for the people in Medina, because the Qibla is to their south. So facing south or north, meaning that you're facing the Qibla or giving your back to it. But facing east or west means that the Qibla is on your right or to your left, and this is okay. This hadith is authentic, but scholars went to 8 different views in this regard, 7 or 8. And the cause of difference of opinion was because what the Prophet said was something, and there is another hadith where Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, climbed the house of Hafsa, and he overlooked by accident that the Prophet ﷺ was defecating, giving his back to the Qibla. So from this hadith, the scholar said, okay, the Prophet said, don't give your back to the Qibla. Now he's giving back his back to the Qibla. how to combine. They have like 7 or 8 different opinions. The most safest of all is that you don't face or give your back to the Qibla when urinating or defecating. Full stop. Then comes the second opinion, which is a bit softer in approach, and there are a hadith from the companions explaining it. So the companions understood this prohibition differently. Abu Ayyub said that when we went to a foreign country, to Syria, we found that their toilets were based and built in the direction of the Qibla. So we used to answer the call of nature, tilt, and ask Allah for forgiveness for what is happening, though we're not facing and giving our backs to the Qibla. And by the way, the Qibla is the direction where we face when we pray. So it is the Kaaba. Other scholars like Ibn Umar, other companions that is, may Allah be pleased with them, used to think and believe that this prohibition of facing and giving your back to the Qibla is only when you are in an open area, when you are outdoors. But if you are confined in a room or in a house or in a hotel, in a bathroom where there are walls in front of you, then the prohibition does not apply. And it seems, and Allah knows best, that this is the most authentic and applicable opinion, especially nowadays that so many bathrooms and so many homes are not paying attention to this etiquette. Hence, you enter a bathroom and the toilet seat is in the direction of Qibla. It would be very difficult to change the layout of the bathroom, maybe because you don't own the place, maybe because it's too expensive, the design won't fit. Either way, it seems that this is the most authentic opinion, but if you can avoid it, then that would be great. Now, when going to the toilet, what are the things that we should do? First of all, the Prophet ﷺ told us to say Bismillah before taking our clothes, whether we are answering the call of nature or not. And why is that? Because the Prophet tells us that saying Bismillah acts like a visor, like a screen between your awrah and the eyes of the jinn. So the jinn cannot see you. But if you don't say Bismillah and you start stripping, taking off your clothes, then the jinn are watching you. And no one knows what they will do next. They will be repelled, they will be intimidated by what they see, but nevertheless, it is not something good to have someone watching you. So you say Bismillah. And you say it before entering the toilet. And if you forgot, you say it when you enter the toilet in your heart and not by your lips. But if you're outside, you say it verbally. Also, there is the dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'ith. Either it refers to seeking shelter from all that is dirty and foul, or it also means that you seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal from the devils, males and females. Also, part of the etiquettes is to enter the toilet, the lavatories, with your left foot. And this is what we usually do for things that are not good. Use the left. And when you exit the toilet, you exit it with your right. And the sunnah is to go away as far as possible. Now, this is not applicable in our homes, our companies, our flats where we live, because the toilets are next door. But in the open, in the outdoors, when you are with a company, with a group of people, if you want to answer the call of nature, you should walk the distances far away from them so they won't be able to hear a sound or find a foul smell or maybe look at you. So protection and concealing yourself is one of the etiquettes. To the extent that the scholars say even raising your garment from down upwards before assuming the position of answering the call of nature should not be done while standing, because when you're standing, people from far can see you. You should do that as you are squatting or sitting. And again, this is regarding the answering of the call of nature when you are outdoors. Then we go on to what is forbidden when revealing oneself. There are a number of things in this section that you can refer to. Number one, urinating in stagnant water. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited urinating in stagnant water, then performing wudu. And he ﷺ also prohibited urinating and performing ghusl. Because stagnant water, when you urinate, the possibilities of being contaminated, especially if it's a small pool, is high. If it's a big lake, then there's no problem. If it's an ocean or a sea or a running river, there's no problem in that. Now, the Zahiri school of thought came up with a catastrophe, because they only judge by what is apparent and they don't go beyond that. So they said the Prophet prohibited urinating in the stagnant water. So if one urinates in a bowl of or a plate, any bowl, and then he pours it in stagnant water, this is okay. Subhanallah, where did you get this from? He said, do not urinate in directly. Not only that, they said if you defecated in stagnant water, this is okay, because the Prophet prohibited only urinating. And this is definitely far-fetched. And it shows you how stagnant some people's thinking might be. So if Allah says in the Qur'an, and do not say uff to your parents, and do not scold them. So Allah prohibited only saying uff. But if I beat my parents, it's okay? Would any Muslim say that? Not a Muslim. Would anyone with common sense say that? So sticking only to the zahir, to what appears, without going into what's beyond that, where Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, where we can do our analogy as taught by the Prophet ﷺ, this is wrong and not a good thing to do. Secondly, a person must not hold or touch his private part while urinating, because the Prophet prohibited that, alayhi salatu wasalam. So if there is a need to hold one's private part or to clean one's private part after urinating or defecating, this is a second and third etiquette, then you may use your left but not your right. Fourthly, it is prohibited to urinate or defecate in the people's roads or ways which they walk on, because this would contaminate them, would offend them big time. And also in the places of their shade. So long ago they did not have so many buildings. You would travel either in the desert or between villages, and one gets tired, he looks at a tree and sits underneath it in the shade to take a rest. So if someone comes and defecates or urinates there, then he would harm those who are seeking shelter. And this would cause them to curse the person who did this. And this is why the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, ittaqul la'inaini, avoid the two things that draw the curse of people upon you. And one of them is to defecate or urinate in the shade of the people's sheltering, like trees, or the second one is their roads and where they pass over or commute over. Number 5, it is prohibited to wipe using bones or a dung, as mentioned before. And number 6, it is totally prohibited to answer the call of nature in a cemetery, between graves. And this is something that is serious in Islam, that we respect the graves of dead people, that we do not walk on them, on the same grave. It's prohibited. We do not sit on them, and definitely we do not use them a place to answer the call of nature. The following section talks about what is reprehensible when revealing oneself. What is disliked? So it's not haram, but it is not a good thing to do. So in the book we have like 4 things. Maybe I count them wrong, but feel free to correct me. Number 1, you have to be sure that you do not urinate, usually, against the wind. Because if you do, most likely the wind would send some of your urine back to your body and to your clothes, and this would render it najis. So if you pray in this state, your prayer would be invalid. So you have to make sure that you protect yourself from any ricochet, or whatever you can call it, coming back to your body from it. Secondly, it is totally disliked to speak while answering the call of nature. So 2 persons enter a public toilet and they are both answering the call of nature, and they're chit-chatting about events, about what happened in the office, etc. This is totally prohibited, and it is inappropriate. If you are in a toilet answering the call of nature and one speaks to you, you should not reply to them. The Prophet ﷺ did not even reply to the salam because he was in such a state, and replying to the salam is mandatory. Not only that, you should not answer questions unless it is something of extreme urgency. So if you remembered while you're in the toilet that the child is on a sofa or on the bed and there's a possibility of it rolling over and falling down, yeah, you may bring that to the attention of someone who's outside. Other than that, you should not spend time and speak and chat while answering the call of nature. And the funny thing is, if you go to people's houses, you'll find in their toilets, next to the toilet seat, a pile of magazines. Of course not Islamic, but it shows you that people are enjoying sitting there, answering the call of nature, and reading car magazines or reading mad magazines or comic books or novels. And this is totally against the Sunnah. This is the inhabitants of the devils, the jinn. So you are making yourself comfortable in their habitat. This is not a very wise thing to do. Number 3, it is not recommended to urinate or to answer the call of nature in cracks on the ground or in holes, boreholes, or whatever, because you don't know what is inside there. It can be a home for a reptile, scorpions, something that is nasty and deadly. It can be also the habitat of the jinn, and you are harming them by urinating or defecating in their homes. And there are stories in the seerah that Sa'd ibn Ubadah, the head of Al-Khazraj tribe of Al-Ansar, may Allah be pleased with him, was found dead, and they heard the jinn chanting that we've killed the master of the Khazraj because of what he had done, etc. But this is a story. We don't know how authentic it is, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Number 4, it is not recommended to have on you something that has the name of Allah. So in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ had a ring, and this ring was not for decoration, rather it was a seal. Whenever he dispatched a messenger with a message, he sealed it, and the seal stated Muhammad Rasul Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. But whenever he entered the lavatories to answer the call of nature, he used to take it off and place it outside. So from this, the scholars said that it is not permissible to enter the lavatories with something that has the name of Allah on it. But if you live in Arab countries or some Muslim countries, and they have the name of Allah on their bank notes, on their currencies, so would you advise me to leave my wallet outside if I'm traveling in an airport or something? Definitely not. You know for certain that someone is going to snatch it and feast on it. So if you are afraid of something bad happening to it, there's no problem in doing that for necessities, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Okay, one point I forgot. In regards to facing and giving your back to the Qibla, this is only for urinating and defecating. Do not cascade this further. What do you mean? Well, so many times I see people fighting with others in the masjid because a person who was sitting on the ground for like 2 hours or an hour waiting from salat to salat tends to get a bit fatigued, tired, and he would extend his legs with his feet facing the Qibla. So often we see the elders who are blind followers of what their parents and forefathers had taught them come and shout and fight. This is disrespectful, this is this and this is that. Who said it's disrespectful? Disrespect is in the heart. And they would say, do you sit like this in front of your mother or your father or the elders? This is a different thing. I would not lay down and put my right foot over my left foot in front of my father or mother or the elders. Yet Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, when he fought once with Fatima and went to the masjid, and the Prophet came, he asked, where is Ali? She told him, he's in the masjid. He went and he found him on this state, lying down on his back, erecting one knee and putting the other on top of it. So the Prophet ﷺ made him stand up and brushed the dust and the sand of his back and said, "Qum Aba Turab, Qum Aba Turab." The Prophet didn't say to him, "How dare you do such a thing in the masjid?" There's nothing wrong with it. So many people ask, my bed is facing the Qibla. When I sleep, my feet would be on the direction of the Qibla. No problem. It's against the Sunnah, but no problem. So we have to think in a broad sense rather than be stigmatized or only follow what the elders used to say without any authentic opinion. Okay, now we move on to the chapter that deals with recommended practices of sound nature. What is sound nature? I know the sound of music, but what is sound nature? This is a rough translation of al-fitra. The word fitra was mentioned in the Qur'an. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, Fitrat Allah, in the English translation, so direct your face towards the religion, inclining to truth, adhere to the fitrah of Allah upon which He has created all people. No change should there be in the creation of Allah. So the word of fitrah is mentioned in the Qur'an. It is mentioned also in the authentic hadith, where the Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, مَا مِن مَوْلُودٍ إِلَّا وَيُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. There is no child that is born except he's born upon fitrah. And his parents make him a Jew, Christian, or a fire worshipper. So this is fitrah in the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is referring to the hidden fitrah, because there is an external fitrah. So the hidden fitrah is anything related to tawheed, to iman, to avoidance of shirk. Any child, if he were to be born and left alone, like Mowgli, for example, on an island, brought up without any outside interference. The Prophet tells us that this man, this boy, when he grows up, he would worship only Allah. He wouldn't know how to pray or fast or the other rituals of Islam, but he would have the inner hidden fitrah, which is tawheed. By nature, he would only worship Allah. What is Allah? He wouldn't know. But he would know that He's a provider, the creator, the one who's deserving to be worshipped. There is an external apparent fitrah. And this is to deal with our bodies. There's a hadith which mentions 5, and there is another hadith which mentions 10. One narrated by Anas, and the other is narrated by Mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. So we will go through them quickly. The hadith 5 practices are part of the sound nature: circumcision, shaving pubic hair, plucking armpit hair, clipping nails, and trimming the mustache. So number 1, part of the sound nature, part of the external fitrah is 1, shaving the pubic hair. And this answers the frequently asked questions by women in the subcontinent. Can a woman use a razor blade on her body? The answer is yes. There's no problem in that. Yeah, but the elders say this or that. Ignore the elders. They don't know what they're talking about. The hadith is crystal clear. Men and women are instructed to remove their pubic hair with a razor blade? Can we use creams or substances that allows us to pluck it? You can. But the sunnah is to use razor blades. So what constitutes pubic hair? It's the hair that grows over and around your private part. So does that include the anus? The answer is no. But if you remove that and it's easy for you, so be it. Number 2, circumcision. And this is for men. Males are mandated to be circumcised. And the sunnah is to circumcise a baby boy when he's 7 days old. This is less painful, quicker for his recovery, and it's a sunnah. Female circumcision is an issue of dispute, but no one had ever said it's mandatory. And nowadays, to my knowledge, it's only practiced in like less than 5% of the Muslim population. Less. Excuse me. And enemies of Islam want to tarnish the reputation of Islam by claiming that Islam promotes what they call female genital mutilation. And this is not circumcision. This is tribal things that might be found in Africa. But it's not done anywhere else. Look at Indonesia, 250, 300 million Muslims. It's not done. Look at the Arab world. It's not done. So you cannot compare or condemn Islam because of the doings of a small percentage of people, like we Muslims cannot condemn the Christians for atrocities done by a handful of them or massacres done by a handful of them. It's not fair. Thirdly, trimming the mustache. And of course, this is for men. Women are more than welcome to trim it, rather remove it altogether. But men, they must trim their mustaches. Sometimes you find people with mustaches covering their upper lip, and this is haram. Oof, haram? Yes, it's haram. The Prophet said in an authentic hadith, ﷺ, he is not from us who does not trim his mustache. Whoa, so this is a serious thing, not an easy thing to go by. Number 4, nail clipping. So you're not allowed to have long nails. I've seen some men having this pinky nail this long, and the rest are all cut. Only one hand. I said, what is this? He said, well, you don't know, we maybe need it to use with some vegetables, and sometimes I clean my ears and some lace in my head. A'udhu billah. This is not clean. This is un-Islamic. You have to clip it, so that when you eat, when you clean yourself, when whatever you do, there's no dirt underneath. And number 5, plucking armpit hair. This is the sunnah. But if someone is having a problem with that, then they can either use a razor blade as well, or any other material that they feel fit that it would do the job for them. Again, Imam Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on his soul, said that plucking the armpit or shaving it is the same. It's up to your convenience, but we know what is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And we also have, it is clear that Islam urges us to attend to these practices for a good appearance, for going against the practices of disbelievers and ignorant people, and to earn reward. Among the Sunnahs of nature is siwak, because cleaning your teeth and your mouth and having a acceptable smell is part of the nature. Blowing your nose, cleaning it, pulling the water up your nostrils and blowing it out, and rinsing the water in your mouth, washing the back of your finger joints, so here and underneath your knees and in your toes, cleaning this area is also part of the practices of sound human nature. Brushing the teeth with miswak, okay, we've gone through that, and you can go through the remaining of the section, and we have no problem with this, bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal. So with this, we conclude. Afterwards, we are supposed to be talking about what invalidates ablution. We spoke about the section that deals with ablution. I hope that the administrators had given the link to my Q&A session, inshallah, and I would request them to send me the email of the questions, because I think we will have a little bit more time for questions today. So, the section that deals what invalidates ablution. What actually invalidates ablution? Scholars have differed immensely, and the reason of the difference of opinion is the authenticity of hadith. And some may use their logic. So what they don't disagree over is answering the call of nature. If a person is in the state of wudu, he urinates, he defecates, or he passes wind, automatically his wudu is invalid. Full stop. He has to go and perform wudu. But also, if a discharge of impurity, and this is imagined with people who have problems in urinating and defecating naturally. I don't know what is called in English, cataracts, I think, is when you get urine out of your body, not through the normal passage. No, cataract might be from the normal passage, but if someone has an operation in his intestines and they take a pipe or a tube out of it and they hang a plastic bag next to his body, may Allah protect us all, so all the defecation, all the body waste will come through that pipe or tube to the bag. In this case, this takes the same ruling as defecation or answering the call of nature. Likewise, if urine is being drained through somewhere else than the normal passage, then again this invalidates wudu. And each case has its own fatwa, because if it's 24/7, what to do? Should I not perform wudu or not? This is a different issue that we may tackle later on, we may not. So among the things that the textbook mentions about what invalidates your wudu is the loss of consciousness, whether it is through sleep or whether it is through fainting and losing consciousness. So if a person sleeps, this is natural. There's nothing wrong. He's not sick. If his sleep is deep, meaning he was unconscious, he's there. I was cracking a joke. He did not laugh. He did not actually hear it. I took his wallet from his pocket. He did not feel it. People came in, people went out. Nothing. Then this guy, wudu has been broken. Why? because his consciousness is what makes him aware whether he released wind or not. So once the consciousness is gone and he's unconscious, then he doesn't know. And there's a hadith where the Prophet says, "Al-aynan wika'u suh," that the body is like a water skin container. We have to come to the nozzle, come to the mouth of it, and tie a rope tightly so that the water does not leave. So the Prophet makes the body like that skin water container, and makes the eyes, that is your consciousness, like the rope tying it. Once your eyes are closed and you're unconscious, the rope is untied and the water comes out, meaning that you would pass wind without knowing it or feeling it. And likewise, if a person is in a coma. Number 4, touching one's private parts directly. And this is a huge issue of dispute among scholars. The reason of this dispute is 2 hadiths. One by Busra bint Safwan. Busra bint Safwan narrated that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, when a person asked him, "Should I perform wudu if I touch my private part?" And the Prophet said, "Yes." So this is it, Sheikh. Where is the confusion? You have to perform wudu. Well, there's another hadith by Talq ibn Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, where a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked the same very question. Should a man perform wudu if he touches his private part, his penis? And the Prophet said, no, it is part of your body. Meaning that if you touch your nose, would you perform wudu? It's part of your body. Likewise, if you touch any part of your body, including your penis, it does not invalidate your wudu. So these 2 hadiths are head to head. There is a collision inevitable. What to do? Scholars did some effort to try and solve this problem. And they have different opinions. One says, one hadith abrogates the other. And this is the safest. So the hadith of Talq ibn Ali, touching the private part is like touching any part of your body. This is the default. What's your ruling on touching my index finger, Sheikh? Does it invalidate my wudu? It's like touching any part of your body. What's the ruling on touching my shoulder? What's the ruling on touching my beard? The whole thing. What's the ruling on touching my penis? The same thing. The default is it does not invalidate your wudu. The hadith of Busra bin Safwan removes this default into a new category, which means that touching the private part abrogates the previous hadith, and now it invalidates your wudu. And this is the safest. The other opinions, which was the choice of our Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy on his soul, is that in order to combine between 2 hadiths without disregarding one over the other, but rather by implementing both of them together, we say that it invalidates your wudu if you touch your private part with desire. So if there was lust in it, then it invalidates your wudu. But if you're cleaning your child and you're washing your boy or girl after pooping, and you touch their private parts, this does not invalidate your wudu because there's no desire in it involved. If you're drying yourself after a shower and you accidentally touch your private part, there's no problem in that. And it's an issue of dispute, and Allah knows best. The textbook did not mention number 5, which is eating camel's meat. And in the books of fiqh, they call this as mufradat al-Imam Ahmad, meaning that Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i all said that camel's meat does not invalidate wudu. Only Imam Ahmad. So one says, okay, then why are we following Imam Ahmad? What a question. We're following Imam Ahmad because he's following the Sunnah. Do you mean that Abu Hanifa, Malik and Shafi'i are not following the Sunnah? It's a big, huge issue of dispute, and I think I spoke about it before, but we will come to talk about it later on, inshallah. Yet the most authentic opinion is that camel's meat invalidates wudu. If you consume it, it invalidates your wudu. And we will come to discuss this, inshallah, later on. But okay, we have questions in the email, so I will stop here to resume next Monday, inshallah, and begin with the camel's meat. So, moving on to your questions. Question number 1 from Afia. If someone is sick and if we say to them, go to the doctor, inshallah, is this considered to be shirk? Because we say this with the intention, if they go to the doctor and have medicines, they will be cured. I think I've answered this last time. It sounds familiar. Yeah, I did answer it, and I answered the question afterwards of Kalsoom. Then Fatima, while doing wudu, if we need to washing, okay, no, this we did not do. So Fatima says, while doing wudu, if the need of washing an extra part, which is not one of the organs of wudu, arises, can we wash it between the wudu? If it's going to take a couple of seconds, no problem. Yani, for example, I washed my face, then I'm washing my arms, then I notice that on my shoulder there's some dirt, so I just wash it and I continue. Couple of seconds, no problem. But if I require something more, maybe acetone or varnish, nail varnish remover, or washing it with soap, etc., no, this would invalidate wudu because the sequence was interrupted. Kalthum says, as we know, we can combine the intention of praying Sunnah of Dhuhr, Tahiyatul Masjid, Tahiyatul Wudu, prayer between Adhan and Iqamah. So we will get all the virtues together, inshallah. Like they have different virtues of each voluntary prayers. The answer is yes. Why do you write so long questions? Simply ask, will we get the reward of combining many prayers? The answer is yes. The following questions: if someone as a layman follow a particular school of thought, but if you tell them that this or that act is against the Sunnah and wrong, you show them the evidence, but still they do these acts, so should we let them do these acts without forcing them? A'udhu billah, who are you to force them? You have no power to force anyone. Da'wah is not done by force. You show the people the road, and if they don't want to take it, leave them. You can always pull a horse to the river and the horse will come with you, but you can never force the horse to drink. If the horse does not want to drink by himself or by itself, you can't help that. So definitely not. Forcing them is totally unacceptable. This is why they are laymen, because they decided to blind follow a school of thought, a great imam, rather than follow what you say. Who are you compared to the imam? Well, I showed them evidences from the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Who am I to understand the Qur'an and Sunnah? I'm a layman. I don't know if you're quoting me the Qur'an or the Bible. This is their argument. So you only have the choice to show them the way, to guide them. This is the way. If they take it, alhamdulillah. If they don't, ignore it and move on. Is flu vaccination halal for kids with animal preservatives? The answer is yes, inshallah. Gelatin and likes are all underwent a rigorous chemical and physical process where its nature has been totally altered and changed. So it's a new substance that has no relation to haram animals or pigs or whatever. But personally, I don't believe in, by the way, flu vaccinations. I personally have my reservations. I would never do it or allow my kids to do it because I simply think that it's a hoax. It's a trend that pharmaceutical companies come up with every decade or so, and they convince people to take it, and afterwards we start seeing new diseases that are uncurable in the foreseen future. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but I'm better off with a couple of weeks of sneezing and having the flu and then recovering and getting my immune system stronger by itself with the grace of Allah rather than taking medication. Rabi'a bint Iqbal says, how should one wipe over the socks, with one hand or both? Manage. Well, the sunnah is, after wiping your head, your ears, wetting your arms, you go simultaneously, put one hand on the toes of your right foot, one hand on the toes of your left foot, and drag them up to your chin. That's it. Khalas. End of story. You don't have to go to the sides or underneath or make sure that everything, just do it like this and this suffices. If you do it separately, this also is acceptable. And Asma says, can we burn our hair that we got because of hair fall? Why would anybody burn their hair? It even smells awful. No, this is an innovation. If you do this because of the fear of people making sihr or black magic, but this is not logical. Sorcerers and soothsayers are not lurking in the dark waiting to see a hair or a piece of your clothes and they will take it and make a spell that would change you into a gorilla, for example. This is nonsense. So such fear is not realistic. Throw them in the dustbin like everybody does. Rabia says, there are some people who abuse verbally and the ones getting abused can't do anything due to various reasons. Will this type of abuse come under the category of oppression? For example, parents comparing their kids to someone else and praising them, husband constantly picking on his wife for no reason, elders, siblings taking things of younger ones without permission, etc. Will they be accountable for these kinds of oppression towards others? Probably yes. The parents, maybe not, because they're parents. Their rights are far greater than any abuse they can deliver you. Elders, husband, yes, they are definitely accountable for such an abuse. Sabir says, I am from Bangladesh. There is a peer in our country who wants us to gather every Monday in our local masjid and do dhikr to Allah loudly in union and go to his darbar every year. I don't know what that is. To supplication. Now, should we do these things? And also there's Tablighi Jama'ah in my country, as well as our local Imam says that Allah exists everywhere. a lot of issues that can't be combined in one question. I would highly recommend that you ask one question at a time. So this peer is deviant and ignorant, and you must not obey him. You must not pray behind. Well, actually, you should not go to his masjid to make this dhikr together. And I don't know what is darbar. So if it is, darbar is a graveyard or a site of awliya or something like that, this is shirk. So such a person must not be prayed behind. As for the Tablighi Jama'ah, they are nice, good people, but they are on innovative methodology. Their cult is innovated, and it's against the way of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. So you should be kind to them. You should meet them in a good fashion, like they are generous and polite, but you should not join hands with them or go with them or participate in their functions. Fatima says, explain to us the ruling on sleeping which causes the minor ritual impurity. If you sleep, this breaks your wudu, whether you pass wind or not, because you fell into the state of being unconscious. And this, as the Prophet said, breaks your wudu, so you fall into the minor ritual impurity. Okay. The Prophet said, سبق المفردون قالوا وما المفردون قال الذاكرون الله كثيرا والذاكرات. Okay, my question is, a person who is punctual in morning and evening, adhkar, bedtime adhkar after salat, and the things that are recommended, does he fall under the category of al-mufarridun? The hadith is in Arabic, and the Prophet says that those who mention Allah a lot among the men and women, who remember Allah a lot among them, will have long strides ahead of everyone else and will be the first to arrive. So she's saying that if we observe our daily adhkar punctually, would we fall under this category? It seems that no, because this is what everybody else does. But to go the extra mile, and in addition to all of that, you make dhikr in times in between, this would classify you, and Allah knows best. Shinaz says, when completing the wudu, can we utter Bismillah and supplications if the wudu area is inside the washroom? The answer is no. You should not say the supplications in the washroom, but you should say it after you leave and exit it. Bismillah is said in the beginning, not afterwards. Romana says, I prayed 5 times and I cover myself, but when get chance I watch movies and spend time on Facebook. Is that a sin? Definitely it is a sin. Praying is good, reading the Qur'an is good, but mixing evil deeds with good deeds, this is in Allah's hand. You may win and you may lose. It's like gambling. So you don't know when you come on the day of judgment whether Allah would erase your sins or would Allah erase your good deeds, because your sins are far greater. So one should not risk it. Iman says, tell any dua for the job finding. There isn't any specific dua. Ask Allah directly, oh Allah, grant me a good job with a high salary in a segregated place where I can protect my deen, I can protect my chastity. Ask Allah directly, and inshallah you will get a response. Bordron says, is it permissible for a woman to broadcast her voice without showing the face? It's an issue of dispute. I'm inclined to say that this is not permissible, because out there are a lot who are sick and perverted, that would be influenced by the beauty of your voice and the content that you're giving, and they might even fall in love with that. So better to be safe rather than to be sorry. And this is all the time we have. Until we meet you inshallah next Monday. Is it? Yeah. I'll leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.